Now, I want to shift gears into the Second Amendment with Adam Kokesh, because he joined us on short notice and is very busy, of AdamVersusTheMan.com, syndicated radio host, libertarian activist. And I want to get his take on Benghazi first as well. He was in combat vet of Fallujah and other operations in Iraq when Fallujah was, a giant genocide operation. And he's spoken out against it. But the D.C. police chief has come out and said, we will arrest Adam Kokesh and open carry protesters. And we're going to play that here in just a moment. But Adam joining us via video Skype. If you're a radio listener, you can go watch the feed at prisonplanet.tv. Adam, what is it like to see? I mean, again, these tyrants always think they're going to get away with stuff. They ordered the stand down, and the globalist-run security force funded by the CIA, that's now on record. Exactly what our incredible sources told us 2 days after it happened. I mean, we broke this again. And I've told my crew, go get our interviews from right after Benghazi. They go, when were they? They were the day after, the 2 days after, the 3 days after. We had Colonel Schaefer on. He got threatened over it. He ran black op, operations against you name it, was ordered to stand down on bin Laden, and that's what he was told. We have all the witnesses. Why would they kill the ambassador? We know there was a weapons cache there they were transferring to al-Qaeda, including heat-seeking missiles. Were they getting rid of the people that transferred the weapons to al-Qaeda? We know they did now. Al-Qaeda's bragged and said, America gave us these. They're shooting down Syrian aircraft with them. You're a Marine Corps vet. You were also in PSYOPs for the Marines. What do you make of what's going on here? Because this whole narrative, we're seeing something, let's not exaggerate, 100 times bigger than Watergate. Watergate was over breaking into the DNC to get the psychological records on your enemies. Nowadays, they just do that by tapping into your internet, and they admit they do it. Which is still wrong. What do you make of the magnitude of what we're seeing historically right now?
Well, Alex, I'm grateful for the opportunity to come back on your show and for your coverage of the Benghazi hearing and what's going on right now, the incident in general. It's very important that we shed light on this. But to put it in the bigger context, what does this represent? What is the ultimate crime in terms of the administration that's being committed here? It's that they're making political decisions that cost people their lives. And this is not something new, as you well know. This is simply an incident where we have such clear, obvious facts in front of us. We can take this to the American people and say, look, this is what your government is doing. It is undeniable. There is evidence. There is testimony. It is absolutely clear that decisions were made for political reasons, and they resulted in the deaths of Americans who were supposedly honorably serving their country. What do we have now in our foreign policy around the world? What do we have with the domestic policy being created by this administration? It's the exact same thing, except that people are able to bury their heads in the sand when they don't have this evidence thrust in their face. But Alex, you know as well as I that there's a preponderance of evidence, that if anything, Benghazi is just the cherry on top of this, where they're saying, all right, here it is, we have this particular incident. But if you look to every crime committed by the American government, by the Obama administration, what they actually did in Benghazi is relatively insignificant compared to the bailouts and TARP and the ripoff of the American people at the behest of the banking class, at the behest of the military-industrial complex, all of the wars that are started abroad, at the destruction of civil liberties here in America. And if you raise awareness, you got to take it one step further. And, that's why we're doing what we're doing. That's so important about what you do with InfoWars, how you encourage people to get involved, and, of course, what we do with Adam versus the Man, inspiring people to assert their self-ownership.
Sure, let me bring this up. They've gone from Bush 6 years ago lying and saying we don't listen to Americans without warrants, and then when it came out, it was like, wow, this is illegal. They're going to stop.
Oh, now you see that they're recording every phone call.
That's what I was about to say. Now, Obama, this is New York Times, on the verge of backing FBI plan to tap web users. They're already doing it, and they say preemptively, we're going to tap everyone. And by the way, this is pointed at libertarians and returning veterans. This is an open group of criminals where I have the New York Times today going, yeah, we're listening to everything we're doing. U.S. is weighing wide overhaul of wiretap laws. They call it overhaul, and they say, yeah, we're just going to watch you in live time and use it in court. This is the revolution against the Bill of Rights and Constitution. Absolutely. I mean, this is by a bunch of crazy people wearing third world dictator uniforms. Let's shift gears. This police chief, we're going to play a clip in a moment, of the District of Criminals, this alien incorporated criminal group. The Supreme Court said you can't keep people from having guns. 4 years later, nobody can have guns. They just do what Chicago ignores the Supreme Court, the lawless mafia. So I, at an instinctive level, get your courage to call for this, to go do this, to throw down the gauntlet, to overthrow their fraud politically with a major event like this. And you're going to be nonviolent, peaceful. I get it all. And then to watch her looking like like a witch out of a movie, snickering about how they'll be forced to arrest you with this craven look in her eyes. I can have the guns. I'm the government god. You can't be trusted. This is lawlessness. But then I get everybody else saying, hey, why do they're going to spin this against us and they could provocateur. So understand, I admire what you're doing, but at the same time, I think it's very, very dangerous. And I don't think it's really criticism for people to say, danger Will Robinson. I think it's more important to have cameras there than guns. Do you see what I'm saying? So what do you want to say to the witch?
Well, absolutely. And I want to say it's much more dangerous to sit at home. It's much more dangerous to stay asleep. It's much more dangerous to remain a victim of government. It's much more dangerous to spend Independence Day sitting around getting fat, watching fireworks, and patting yourself on the back for being part of this great country and doing nothing about it. And we have already scored a major victory with this. I think you can appreciate what we have done, Alex, is provided this response from the chief of police, who has made it clear that she is a criminal, that she intends to break the law on Independence Day, and she intends to violate the constitutional rights of fellow Americans despite the ruling from the Supreme Court. And I was a little reluctant to come on and discuss this today, as you know, and we have some particulars that we're going to be announcing in the next few weeks about this march as it develops, as we see the support grow exponentially, as we see more and more law enforcement officers who are oath keepers rather than oath breakers sign on our side, and they will be accompanying us and providing an escort. But I'm ready to tell the chief of police right here publicly that she's put herself in a lose-lose situation. And there are really only two possible outcomes for this: to go non-violently, as we strongly are working to ensure that is the outcome of this, that it is non-violent. But there are really only two possibilities. And one is that she honors our request and provides us with an escort along our route and allows us to conduct our march around the Capitol, around the Supreme Court, around the White House.
She has to allow you to eat at the lunch counter. You're asking like Eisenhower. When people wouldn't let blacks go to school, you're asking her to actually protect the Bill of Rights and Constitution and to join you against treason. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. But here's the other alternative, Alex, and this is what I'm calling on people to join us for now, and why I'm asking people to RSVP specifically to this event on Facebook as the way that we are going to count our numbers and make sure that we have the critical mass and the strength to do this. And it looks like we are already there, nearly 3,000 RSVP. This thing is really taking off, and I'm so grateful for everybody who's made this commitment to stand with me. But if she does not respect the rule of law, we will shut her down. And what I mean by that is we will overwhelm them with people engaging in civil disobedience on this day, willing to risk arrest either through crossing that line, carrying a loaded firearm, or within the District of Columbia, doing whatever it takes to say that we will not be silent, we will not just obey, we will not go silently into the night, we will stand up, we will fight, we will disobey unjust laws, and we will make the enforcement of unconstitutional regulations untenable for law enforcement.
Well, so now I know why you were reticent to break this here. I didn't know that you were going to double down and say, I guess like the end of V for Vendetta. Can you guys look on YouTube and find the final scene or the end of V for Vendetta when people all put the mask on and go through the soldiers? Because even if they fire like Tiananmen Square, they will lose. This will not go like China. Is this what you were really planning, Adam?
I was not planning on getting such an immediate response from the police department, but I was planning on standing by my principles and sticking to my guns, so to speak. We fully intend to do that. And even if it's just me by myself crossing that line, getting arrested, we will give the Second Amendment and the Constitutional the ultimate test this Independence Day.
Well, there's no doubt the government is totally and completely out of control on every front. Right now, by the way, they've even cut the Benghazi hearing off C-SPAN 1 to 2 to 3, and they're talking about not even having the hearing now. This is a total meltdown. You've got congressmen saying death is part of life. We've got them admitting that there was a stand-down ordered. This is unbelievable, the history that we're seeing unfold right now here on air. I mean, I just have trouble even being on air when such historical things happening. A mother of one of the dead is saying that she blames Hillary. Hillary's in the spotlight. Remember her throwing a fit and saying, what difference does it make, like a baby, you know, just showing her bravado. I remember her saying that. I mean, this is unprecedented. We've got live coverage at Infowars.com, and we've also got live coverage going on right now that we're seeing at drudgereport.com. And there's a major study out that I just mentioned. Gun crime has plunged, but Americans think it's up. So the LA Times actually just kind of redid the article that I was just mentioning earlier that Zero Hedge covered, actually showing the statistics. Unbelievable. More guns, less crime. That's what the Professor Lott's info has shown. 69% drop in actual shootings, 49% drop in violent crime, but only 12% of Americans believe gun crime has fallen. And by the way, this is from FBI.gov and the Justice Department. They now have the official report out. So you see, I've been saying with our statisticians, 49% drop in violent crime.
Alex, this is a lot bigger than the firearms issue in the Second Amendment. This is about the people's fundamental relationship to government and whether we're going to be obedient wage slaves or whether we're going to be free, sovereign individuals. And I want to make clear exactly what I'm facing and what I'm calling on people to do if they join me. I'm going to be facing a felony charge of that includes a sentence of up to 5 years and $5,000 in fines. And I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to face that and force the court case in order to force the issue and give the Second Amendment the ultimate test in my particular act of civil disobedience that day. If that's how it goes down, it's going to be very peaceful, very controlled. We are going to send people one at a time and who are volunteering to be arrested on the same charge who want to join me. But broader than that now, that this is the threat, that they have declared the District of Columbia a constitution-free zone. We are calling for everybody who would like to join us in civil disobedience that day to swarm the Capitol, to overwhelm the law enforcement, to make it clear that if they're not even going to respect their silly little rules, we will make their job impossible. You don't have to bring a gun. In fact, you can come to our event unarmed. We highly suggest coming with a camera. We want to make sure that this is documented and everybody involved is held fully accountable. But if you want to go into the district unarmed, if you want to go in with a camera, if you want to commit another act of civil disobedience, I can think of no better way.
Yeah, because by the way, they get in your face there. I mean, you could be at the park with a camera and they walk over to families and want you to know you're in North Korea. I mean, you live there. That's why you know how hellish it is. I mean, the government runs around on power trips, foaming at the mouth with the same look in their eyes North Korean despots have. It is a spirit of disgusting filth. And right now, Benghazi is burning them down. Lanier, the police chief of the alien district of criminals that believes it's above the law. Imagine the Supreme Court said 4 years ago, your laws are all unconstitutional. They're still all in place. They say if you jump through 45,000 flaming hoops on a blue moon when the Easter Bunny, you know, sacrifices 9 children to the goblin god, then maybe you can have a gun permit if the criminals want to give it to you. And you see a 49% drop in violent crime, a 69% drop in survived shootings. That's the headline. I mean, I've got all the statistics here. LA Times is running with a 39% drop in gun crime. But that's just one little thing they snip it out. It's well over 50. And that's all in the firearm violence report. Adam Kokesh is our guest, and you see her. Let's play a clip of her and then get Adam Kokesh's take on this. And then I'm going Benghazi. I know Catherine Albrecht's coming on. I wanted to get her on about Google censoring people and stuff. Let's get her on at the next half hour because of Benghazi breaking news. If not, we can do her next week. Get her on the show next week. Let's go ahead and go to a woman in a costume acting powerful. She gets a gun, you don't, slave. That's what this is. Here it is.
Chief, what can you tell us about the man? I don't actually know where he lives, but he's an internet radio talk show host, and he says we need to push back against the government a bit. And the way to do that is to take some armed guns, rifles, what have you, put them on our backs, and march across Memorial Bridge on July 4th. Will they be allowed into the city?
Well, first of all, I want to clear up, there's a difference between civil disobedience, which I think is this is being portrayed as a civil disobedience, and actually violation of the law. I mean, there's two different things here. So civil disobedience, people come to Washington, D.C. to protest policies and government policies.
And you arrest them all the time.
No problem. But when you
cross no problem with you,
witch? With firearms and you're not in compliance with the law, now you're talking about a criminal offense, and there's going to be some action by police. So obviously we have not, there's no permit that has been filed by the organizer. We have not made contact directly with the organizer yet, but we will, and we'll make sure that they understand that if they want to pass through the District of Columbia with firearms, as long as they're in compliance with the firearms laws for transportation of firearms through the district, we're all for it. But passing into the District of Columbia with loaded firearms is a violation of law, and we'll have to treat it as such.
Here's what Adam Kokesh told the listeners on his internet program a short time ago.
Oh, how evil.
I think it's time we stand up in critical mass and say, no, we're not just going to cower before your tyranny, Washington. We are not simply going to bend over and take it from the district of criminals. We are going to march. And I asked today, to the Adam versus the Man audience, I asked, if I were to go on an illegal,
all right, let's go back.
Not unlawful.
Let's go back to Adam here. Look, the issue here is they have ruled their laws are illegal. And so she says she's going to violate our civil rights, but she gets to have a gun. She gets to have bodyguards. She gets to sit up there and play the part of God while this is an illegitimate government that says our military is under NATO UN rule. Okay, America has been hijacked. These people, I don't care. Notice the uniforms get bigger, the stars get bigger, the outfits get bigger, the red carpets get bigger, the more illegitimate they are. In Mexico, in North Korea. We are not North Korea, witch. What do you say to her going out to break, Adam?
I think it's really disgusting that an officer allegedly of the law doesn't understand what civil disobedience is. We are intending to break what we consider to be an unjust law because it is contrary to the natural law.
Next, you're going to tell me blacks shouldn't have gone and sat in at the places to eat. You're an extremist. How dare you do this? How dare you?
Hi, Ted Anderson, president of Midas Resources. With over 30 years of experience in the precious metals business, I can tell you without a doubt, we are facing the most dangerous and volatile times, not just in the United States, but worldwide. Peace of mind is gold and silver. Now is the time to invest in gold. When it comes to bullion coins, our prices are competitive and the closest to melt. If it's numismatics you're looking for, we have some of the best deals out there. Visit MidasResources.com today or go to Infowars.com and click on the link to see our daily specials. Here's an example of one of our long-term specials we've been offering for more than a year. 2 silver dollars from the turn of the last century, plus 2 powerful films, The Obama Deception and The American Dream. We also add in the book Dishonest Money, all for $72 and free shipping. The most trusted name in precious metals is Midas Resources. Call 1-800-686-2237 or go to Infowars.com. I'm Ted Anderson with Midas Resources.
We are now only entering the edge of a global financial superstorm, the likes of which the planet has never seen. Here in the United States, the private Federal Reserve is giving more than $85 billion of taxpayer money a month to themselves and other offshore foreign banks. And the worst part is, we have to pay the banks interest on the money we give them. There is now a race between the global central bank mafia cartels to see who can devalue their country's currencies the fastest. We are already seeing big increases in inflation at the grocery store and the gas line. This will eventually lead to hyperinflation. More than a dozen top globalists like George Soros have been buying record amounts of gold while at the same time bad-mouthing it to the public. Don't just listen to what they say. Watch what they do. For more than 6,000 years of recorded human history, gold has been the ultimate hedge against uncertain times and inflation. Before investing in metals, it is important to do your own research and find a reputable company. Midas Resources has the highest Better Business Bureau rating of an A+. Unfortunately, very few precious metal companies can boast that. Midas Resources has assembled one of the most educated, researched, and professional teams of brokers in the industry. The evidence is overwhelming. In uncertain times, gold and silver is safe harbor. Now is the time to invest in gold. Call 800-686-2237 and Midas Resources will mail you 10 reasons to own gold absolutely free. No shipping. It's absolutely free. And finally, Ted Anderson wants to challenge you to find any deal that comes close to his 2 silver dollars at cost with free shipping with 2 free films and a book for $72. That's more than $160 value for $72 shipping included. Click the link at Infowars.com to go to the MidasResources.com specials page. Brought to you by MidasResources.com and Ted Anderson, the trusted name in precious metals. Well, Elijah Cummings is whitewashing Benghazi, saying death is part of life. So don't make a big deal out of it, buddy. See, they're going to decide when a death is important. Kill a million plus Iraqis? It's a good price to pay for security in the Gulf. Madeleine Albright. At that time, it was 500,000. Now it's 1.5 million. So she was very proud of that then. She's proud of it now. And when they say it's a good price to pay, you know, take all your liberties. So they're secure in their criminal activities. So like, death's part of life. Big deal, ambassador dead. And the government's like, well, this is one of our own. Now you get it. You're all expendable morons until you have a Bill of Rights and Constitution that's enforced. Adam, I've been ranting a lot. Adam versus the man. People just joined us. He's planning the armed peaceful march on D.C., a civil rights march, like going and sitting at the front of the bus or going into the lunch counter and demanding you be served. And, of course, I was being sarcastic, telling him, how dare you. I get why people are so timid. If people are freaked out by me going on Redcoat Show and going, you want our guns, it's going to cause a civil war, back off. If so-called conservatives and libertarians literally defecated in their pants over that, what you're doing is like a nuclear bomb going off compared to that. So again, I get your right to do it. I get they can come against us and do all sorts of stuff. In my gut, I probably wouldn't have done it. I mean, not just even calling them. I'm not saying you're bad. I'm saying my view, my opinion. But now that it's going, now that it's happening, Adam, we need to make sure there's cameras there and make sure you get as much support so this doesn't get co-opted by the enemy. Go ahead.
Absolutely, Alex. Well, I'd like to extend a personal invitation to you and to everyone in your audience, but really to you in particular for this day. I can't imagine a better way to spend Independence Day than engaged in something as important as civil disobedience. And you don't have to bring a gun. You don't have to be a part of my event. But if you could be there on Independence Day to document it, it would be greatly appreciated. But if you could engage in some civil disobedience and say that you are willing to put your concept of what the Constitution should be above what the law enforcement officers believe
gods?
It is.
No. The officials. Call them gods.
Excuse me. The officials. Alex, I invite you to get arrested with me on Independence Day in Washington, D.C.
Well, know what they'll do. This is what they've done to, like, peaceful demonstrators in Austin and in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and everywhere else. They'll just, the night before, put pipe bombs in your apartment or Molotov cocktails. So just, you should say up front, you don't have any Molotov cocktails.
I don't, and there are too many of us for them to try that this time, Alex. We are storming the Capitol.
Well, I've stormed the Texas Capitol, and they actually...
You have.
They stood down because they didn't want us to have the victory. Look at the opt-out a few years ago on the groping. They just shut the whole thing down for a week. They didn't want us to have that victory. They didn't want to have it. In fact, they should have in the South, the racist restaurant owners, they should have just said, okay, today you can eat, but then tomorrow you can't. Do you understand? Then you would have never gotten that freedom.
This is the time to push.
What do you want to say to her? I mean, I hate to chew into her, but she just looks like a goon. And with now, I mean, she looks worse than like a Guatemalan general or something. I mean, this is a joke.
I feel sorry for her, Alex, that she's been called out at this point and identified as someone who doesn't care about the Constitution, who would rather be a lackey of politicians than stand up for the people. And if you talk about the effect on the District of Columbia, the murder capital of the world, or the country, if not the world, you see that the effect of their policies has been incredibly destructive. It has been a great boon for poverty and for crime. And I think, if anything, it's time for the American people to recognize that when the government has these kinds of overbearing policies, there are real consequences. This is a very simple, easy way, relatively speaking, compared to what prior generations were called on to do in the struggle, to stand up for what we believe in, to stand up for liberty.
You know, I think
So
you're an extremist. How dare you make fun of her costume? I think she should start wearing a Queen Elizabeth crown.
It would certainly be appropriate. But there's something bigger going on here, Alex, and you understand this, and I really do hope to have you there on Independence Day and so many of your audience.
No, I get this is epic. I know you're doing it. So I'm not just going to
me.
sit here like a coward and say you're a bad guy.